the Secretary of the Commonwealth, the Right Honorable Baroness Patricia Scotland QC, discussant, I am pleased, and I think I am lucky. Somebody placed M.O. Ibrahim on my right-hand side. Representatives of the civil society, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I feel highly honored to be invited to this event to exchange views with you, my fellow invited guests, representing governments, the private sector, and civil society organizations. I thank you, Your Excellency, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, for asking me to speak at this gathering. Corruption is a hydra-headed monster and a cankerworm that undermines the fabric of all societies. It does not differentiate between developed and developing countries. It constitutes a serious threat to good governance, rule of law, peace and security, as well as development programs aimed at tackling poverty and economic backwardness. These considerations informed my decision to attend this event as well as the Anti-Corruption Summit organized by the Prime Minister, Right Honorable David Cameron, that will be held tomorrow. I expect that today's event would feed into the discussions that will be held tomorrow at Lancaster House. In 2003, when the world came together to sign the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, that entered into force into 2005, it was with a view to tackling the growing threat that corruption had become to many nations. Little did we know that 11 years since then, the program will still continue unabated, but even become more intractable and cancerous. Your Excellencies, permit me to share with you our national experience in combating corruption. I intend to do this by placing the fight against corruption in Nigeria within the context of the three priority programs of our administration. On our assumption of office on the 29th May 2015, we identified as our main focus three key priority programs. They are combating insecurity, tackling corruption, and job creation through restructuring the declining national economy. Our starting point as an administration was to amplify and demonstrate zero tolerance for corrupt practices, as this vice is largely responsible for the social and economic problems our country faces today. The endemic and systematic nature of corruption in our country demanded our strong resolve to fight it. We are demonstrating our commitment to this effort by bringing integrity to governance and showing leadership by example. Tackling the menace of corruption is not an easy task, but it is possible even if many feathers have to be ruffled. Our government-dogged commitment to tackling corruption is also evident in the freedom and support granted to national anti-corruption agencies to enable them to carry their respective mandates without interference or hindrance from any quotas, including the government. Today, our frontline anti-corruption agencies, namely the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses Commission, ICPC, the Code of Conduct Bureau, CCB, and the Code of Conduct Tribunal, CCT, have become revitalized and more proactive in the pursuit of perpetrators of corrupt practices, irrespective of their social status and political persuasion. This is a radical departure from the past. We have implemented the Treasury single account, whereby all federal government revenue goes into one account. This measure would make it impossible for public officers to divert public funds to private accounts, as was the practice before. Though the effective application of TSA and the bank verification number, BVN, we have been able to remove 23,000 ghost workers from our payroll, thereby saving billions that would have been stolen. We are also reviewing our anti-corruption laws and have developed a national anti-corruption strategy document that will guide our policies in the next 3 years and possibly beyond. I admit there are a few cases where apparently stringent rules have been applied as a result of threat to national security and the likelihood that certain persons may escape from the country or seek to undermine the stability of Nigeria. It is for this reason that we are seeking the support of many countries for the prosecution of certain individuals residing in their jurisdiction. Of course, we will provide the necessary legal documents and whatever mutual assistance is required to secure conviction of such individuals, as well as facilitate the repatriation of our stolen assets. Unfortunately, our experience has been that of repatriation of corrupt proceeds is very tedious, time-consuming, costly, and entails more than just the signing of bilateral or multilateral agreements. This should not be the case, as there are provisions in the appropriate United Nations Convention that require countries to return assets to countries from where it is proven that they were illegitimately acquired. I would like to respectfully digress here. When a British team visited me, to supervise the training team Britain sent to help us with some limited hard and software military equipment against the insurgents in the northeast. I told them of my personal predicament. I happened to be a head of state under the military in 1984 to 85. That time what we did was to arrest the perceived corrupt people, put them in protective custody, and told them that they are guilty until they can prove themselves innocent. But this time around, when I decided to join partisan politics and eventually arrive here after a third attempt, I have to follow the system that eventually brought me back. And the system is so tolerant, as far as Nigeria is concerned with corruption, that I saw some of them riding Rolls Royce, but they are innocent until I can prove them guilty. This is the problem we have. But mercifully, documentation is helping us, to trace billions of dollars, not naira, that have been stacked in so many banks, both locally and internationally. I think it will give you an idea of the problem Nigeria is facing. Further, we are favorably disposed to forging strategic partnership with governments, civil society organizations, organized private sector, and international organizations to combat corruption. Our sad national experience had been that domestic perpetrators of corrupt practices do often work hand in hand with international criminal cartels. what the G7 did to Nigeria is remarkable. On the week I was sworn in, I was invited by G7 in Germany to brief them about security in Nigeria. I was taken by surprise. I was invited as an observer. But when we sat down, I was placed between President Obama and the French president. And I was asked, okay, tell us about your problem. I thought I was going to listen, but I was told to talk, and I was the first to talk. I told them about the problem in the Northeast, about Boko Haram, and about the international terrorism that is threatening not only the developing countries, but the developed countries. As if G7 knew, weeks after that, Paris, a capital of a developed country, was held hostage overnight, and over 130 human beings were killed. Now, this is what international terrorism has acquired now. It has no borders, and any country that thought it is safe now, I think should wake up and make sure that they use the best of their communications and their personalities to secure their country and their institutions. This evil practice is manifested in the plundering and stealing of public funds, which are then transferred abroad in secret accounts. I therefore call for the establishment of an international anti-corruption infrastructure that will monitor, trace, and facilitate the return of such assets to their countries of origin. It is important to stress that the repatriation of identified stolen funds should be done without delay or precondition. Again, on this point, I have to thank the United Kingdom. Even before this government came, the United Kingdom took the initiative of arresting some of former governors in some of the states in Nigeria. One of them disgracefully has to dress like a lady to get out of the UK and left behind his bank accounts and other assets. And then some of the money was returned to Nigeria. And then the so-called Abacha loot, the United States has agreed to return about 350 million. Switzerland is returning about the third tranche to Nigeria. So we are benefiting from international communities that have conscience, recovering that fund and returning it to Nigeria. In addition to the looting of public funds, Nigeria is also confronted with illegal activities in the oil sector, the mainstay of our export. That industry has been enmeshed in corruption, with the participation of the staff of some of the oil companies is well established. Their participation enabled oil theft to take place on a massive scale. Again, on this, I have to thank the G7 because the security of the Gulf of Guinea, if you can imagine, from Senegal to Angola, an area which has been uncovered to be rich in hydrocarbon has been made unsecure by oil thieves, mainly from Nigeria. We are receiving help, especially technology in communication, the movement of ships, where they load, where they are heading to, the amount of load, or how many tons of crude they are taking. That is helping us to get papers so that we can subsequently succeed in prosecuting those that are stealing the national assets. Some of us in this hall may be familiar with the report released by Chatham House here in London in 2013 titled Nigeria's Criminal Crude. international options to combat that export of stolen oil. The important findings of the Chatham House document are illuminating and troubling. That part of the report concludes that Nigerian crude is being stolen on an industrial scale and exported with proceeds laundered through world financial centers by transnational organized criminals. Oil theft is a species of organized crime that is almost totally off the international community's radar, as Nigeria's trade and diplomatic partners have taken no real action. Nigeria could not stop the trade single-handedly, and there is limited value in countries going it alone. We have, again, said, looked for the technology and help of the international community. We are trying to approach Lloyd's of London so that the movement of ships will help us to trace those ships that loaded our crude, the documents, who bought the crude, which is the destination, and which account the proceeds are going. As I said, it's a very tedious process for Nigeria, because with the collapse of oil price, we need every cent we can get now, at least to pay salaries, if not for anything else. For that reason, again, we are dependent on international community to make sure that their infrastructure or their institutions, both financial and trade ones, do not allow participation in these criminal activities against developing countries. It is clear, therefore, that the menace of oil theft, put over 150,000 barrels per day, is a criminal enterprise involving internal and external perpetrators. Illicit oil cargoes and their proceeds move across international borders. Opaque and murky as these illegal transactions may be, they are certainly traceable and can be acted upon if all governments show the required political will. This will has been the missing link in the international effort. Now in London, we can turn a new page by creating a multi-state and multi-stakeholder partnership to address this menace. We, therefore, on the international community, to designate oil theft as an international crime similar to that in blood diamonds, as it constitutes an imminent and credible threat to the economy and stability of oil-producing countries like Nigeria. The critical stakeholders here present can lead the charge in this regard. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, by the end of our summit tomorrow, we should be able to agree on rules based on architecture to combat corruption in all its forms and manifestations. I agree fully with the Commonwealth Secretary General that anti-corruption is a shared agenda for civil society, business and government, requiring commitment from companies, creating a space for civil society and government, providing support for whistleblowers. A main component of this anti-corruption partnership is that government must demonstrate unquestionable political will and commitment to the fight. The private sector must come clean and be transparent, and the civil society, while keeping a watch on all stakeholders, must act and report with a sense of responsibility and objectivity. For our part, Nigeria is committed to signing the open government partnership initiatives alongside Prime Minister Cameron during the summit. In conclusion, may I commend the Commonwealth Secretary General and her team for hosting this important event. This is a very encouraging way to start your tenure. We wish you the very best as you guide the affairs of the Commonwealth family in the years to come. Thank you very much.